Welcome to Talend Cloud Administration course. In this lecture, I am going to show you how to install and configure remote engines. Before doing that, we need to learn what are all the execution engines that are available in Talend Cloud. You can use the different types of execution engines to execute your tasks and plans in Talend Cloud Management Console. The first type that I am going to talk about is Cloud Engine. Cloud Engine is a compute resource managed by Talend in the cloud that executes job tasks. You can allocate Cloud Engines to environments proportionally to the number of concurrent task executions you plan to run. Listen carefully to whatever I am going to talk in this lecture because there are multiple certification questions that will be asked from this. Unassigned cloud engines can be used by all environments. If cloud engines are not allocated to environments, you may not be able to run certain tasks because other tasks keep all the engines occupied. The default environment can use unassigned cloud engines only. As you guys have seen when I was showing you how to create and manage environments, there is a default environment already created by Talend Cloud for us. And that default environment can use unassigned cloud engines only. You cannot assign cloud engines to the default environment. 3 different tasks can run in parallel on a cloud engine. Remember this, I already mentioned to you this, but again I'm mentioning you how many tasks can run in parallel on a cloud engine. 3 different tasks. If you chose to run your tasks on cloud exclusive, no other task will be executed on that cloud engine. Cloud exclusive engines can only be used in environments that do not have cloud engines assigned to them. If 3 different tasks or the same task is already running on a cloud engine, another engine will be selected to task execution. And there are resource limitations obviously for a cloud engine to run jobs. The one limitation is disk usage is 200 GB. You cannot go beyond that, and memory usage is 8 GB. So if you think whatever the job you are running will take more than 8 GB, then you cannot use cloud engines. And for jobs that require more resources, consider using Talend Remote Engine as the target runtime. That's about Cloud Engine. Then we have Talend Remote Engine, which is what we are going to set up in this particular lecture. Remote engines allow you to run either a job, route, and data service tasks that use on-premise applications and databases. By default, maximum 3 different tasks can run in parallel on the same engine. Remember, this says by default. It doesn't mean that's the maximum task you can run in parallel on the same engine. This is by default. There is a difference. Outbound communication between TMC and Talend Remote Engine is fully secured as data is not staged, which means TMC won't have control of the data that is being run on Talend Remote Engine. Data service and route tasks can only be deployed on remote engines. OSGI type deployments require that Talend Runtime 7.1.1 version or higher is installed and running on the same machine as the Talend Remote Engine. Remember that. In this lecture later on you will see when we are creating a remote engine, it will ask us, do you plan to run only jobs, or along with it do you want to run OSGI and other things. So remember, if you want to run OSGI services or Talend Runtime, you can only set up Talend Runtime on a Talend Remote Engine. You cannot set it up separately. Microservices do not require any other application for route and REST data service deployments, except the data service runner module inside the remote engine. Data service tasks can be executed only on engines that have a microservice or Talend Runtime run profile configured. You will see what the run profile configured means, which I already just now told you, right? So when we set up the remote engine, it will show you those options. Remote engines can be grouped together to form clusters. Any number of clusters can be created in an environment. However, remote engines added to a cluster cannot be used to execute tasks directly from Talend Studio. Then you have Cloud Engine for design. Cloud Engine is different. Cloud Engine for design is different. Cloud Engine is used to run what? Jobs, whereas Cloud Engine for design is used to is a built-in runner that allow you to easily design pipelines without having to set up any processing engines. So Cloud Engine for design is used to run pipelines, not jobs. You can execute pipelines with different resource allocations and a Cloud Engine for design by using run profiles. There are again resource limitations for pipelines running on Cloud Engine for design, which are the memory usage is again 8 GB, and here you can run only 2 pipelines in parallel. Remember, on Cloud Engine you can run 3 job tasks in parallel. On Cloud Engine for design you can run 2 pipelines in parallel at any given time. For advanced processing of data, it is recommended to install the secure Remote Engine Gen 2. So let's get into Remote Engine Gen 2. Remote Engine Gen 2 is a secure execution engine on which you can safely run pipelines. By using this engine, you can make sure that data processing happens in a safe and secure environment, as Talend never has access to the data and resources of your pipelines. You have control over your execution environment and resources, as you are able to create and configure the engine in your own environment, which is a VPC or on premises. The engine also ensures optimal performance and security by increasing the data locality instead of moving large data to computation. You can execute pipelines with different resource allocations on a Remote Engine Gen 2 by using run profiles. So then what are run profiles exactly? You are hearing a lot. So run profiles for jobs. Run profiles allow you to determine the resource configuration for executing jobs on Talend Remote Engine or on an engine cluster. You enter custom values or choose from the drop-down list via the engines via the engines tab. Then we will click on the Remote Engine, and then we'll click on run profiles, and then we can add profiles, and then we can configure JVM arguments. I will show you that in a minute. You can create multiple run profiles for the same engine or cluster, but a run profile belongs only to a single runtime. If you want to use the same profile settings on another engine or cluster, you must create a new run profile for them. When creating or editing a job task, you can select which run profile to use for its execution. Run profiles for data services and routes. Depending on the type of the task, the selected remote engine must have the corresponding run profile set either when the engine is created or later in the edit engine wizard accessible via the engines, then the remote name path. Run profiles allow you to activate Talend runtime or the microservice runner on a Talend remote engine. I will show you this in action once we set up the remote engine and configure it. And run profiles for pipelines. Run profiles contain the set of configurations for executing pipelines on a Remote Engine Gen 2 or on a Cloud Engine for design according to your license type. You can design the right resource allocation and advanced properties used at runtime in the run profiles. Based on your license, different run profile types are available. A Remote Engine Gen 2 can have several run profiles, but a run profile can belong only to a single Remote Engine Gen 2. You can create multiple run profiles which are standard, advanced, big data, Databricks. Remember, this might be a probable certification question. So the run profiles available for Remote Engine Gen 2 are standard, advanced, big data, Databricks. After you add a run profile for an engine, you must refresh the Talend Cloud Pipeline Designer page for it to be visible in the run profile list. And then allocating cloud engines to environments, so that we will see after we set up our remote engine. So let's get back to that. So now you are going to see how to install a remote engine on a Linux machine, which is set up using a virtual box on my laptop. You have multiple options where you can install remote engine. You can install it on a Windows server, you can install it on a Linux on-premise server, but this is a Talend Cloud course, so most probably your client wants to install it on a cloud, and you have that option too. You can install Talend remote engine on AWS or Azure, and AWS marketplace already have an image that already has Talend remote engine set up and configured. So whenever you want to spin a machine on AWS, just use that image and spin it, so that you will have pre-installed remote engine. I'm going to show you or install my remote engine on a Linux machine or Ubuntu machine that I set up on a virtual box. So let's see how to install it. So let me check if I have Java installed, which is there, and then let me check my files if they are available. I already downloaded onto these machines. And I have that file right there, Talend remote engine, and let's make it executable. Chmod, I will just make 777. Okay, so it's executable right now. So I have to set this up using as sudo. So I'm going to sudo root. I'm sorry. So since I have it as executable, I can see the file. So I'm going to run it now, and it's going to say press set Java home variable and restart the installation. Okay, so looks like I don't have Java home setup. Let's check it. Okay, I don't have it. So let's do this. It's in there. Okay. I need the home of it. I'm just checking where it is. Okay, here we go. Okay, so let's copy that. Let me see where I wanna set it up though. Step where that we need to mention or link this particular remote engine with our Talend cloud. So that's the pre-authorization key it is asking us for. So how do we do that? We need to go back to our cloud and then go to our management console. Then click on engines. So this is the place where you add your engines. If you remember, yesterday we added this. Let's delete that. Add. So we are not going to create Gen 2, we are going to create remote engine. Environment, you can pick which environment you want to. I want to go and put it under dev. And all workspaces, up to you. If you want to only assign this to a particular workspace, you can pick and do that, but for now I'm going to pick all workspaces, and the name I'm going to give is dev.js. And if you want this to run along with jobs, if you want to run Talend, runtime, OS, GIS or microservices, you can check them, but I don't want them. So click save. So it created it, but remember, it is not linked yet. It's just created. It's not linked to the actual installation of Talend remote engine. That's why it's saying like not paired. So we need to pair it. This is just a dummy piece. We created it, but we need to pair it. So how do we do that? So we click on this, click on run, and this is the remote engine key. So we copy that. Then we come here, paste the key. Use HTTP proxy, no, the default is capital N, so enter no. Setup is now ready to begin installation Talend Cloud Remote Engine on your computer. Do you want to continue? default is yes. So it is installing. Let's give it some time. Looks like it finished installing. So let's go here and let's see if it stays it's paired. So let's refresh this, and as you can see it says paired, but it is showing not available. And as you can see it changed. Previously when you clicked on it, it showed you those keys and whatnot. Even though this is paired, unless and until you click on use remote for debugging jobs in Studio, it won't be available in your Talend Studio. For example, like let's see if, let me create a dummy job. If I go to run target executions, I only see local host which is running. I can only run my job on my computer, not on any remote engine or anything like that. So if I go ahead and click on that, in the host or IP address I put local host, but you are supposed to put the IP address of the machine where you install your Talend remote engine. That's the error. So I entered the IP address of the remote engine, then came back, restarted my studio, and then executed the job again. So it will compile the job, prepare the zip file, then send the zip file to the server, which as you can see that's my IP address and that's the port that it's sent to, and deploying, and then it ran and then sent the results back to my computer. So as you can see here, you should be noticing that the communication between these machines should be established prior to doing all this. So what does this tell us? This tells us that I successfully installed my remote engine on the Linux Ubuntu and paired successfully with Talend Cloud and linked it with Talend Studio and able to successfully run the job. So that's how you install and configure Talend remote engine. I hope you followed each and every step on how to install and set it up the Talend remote engine, and you have different methods on how you can set up remote engine. The one that you have seen is installing the remote engine automatically using the installer. Sometimes you want to install the remote engine automatically but unattended, maybe from a automation tool. You can also install remote engine manually by downloading the tar file. Once you install, when you are installing the remote engine manually, you might have to set up the remote engine services manually. When I was setting up, it asked me, do I want to set it up as service? I picked yes. But if you are installing manually, you have to do the manual setting up of the remote engine services manually. So if you want to check all that out, then there is a document for that, Talend Cloud Installation Guide for Linux and for Windows Server. You can go and check all those options. I downloaded the Talend run remote engine executable, but if you want to set up runtime, you might have to download that and set it up as that. So pretty much that's it, guys. If you want to set up remote engine Gen 2, you follow the same instructions, but you will be downloading the Gen 2 installer and doing the same thing. Now that we have our remote engine setup, so the run profiles I was talking about previously. So whenever we click a remote engine, you see the run profile types. For a remote engine, this might be a question. For remote engine, what are the different run profile types that are available, which is job, microservice, and Talend runtime or SGI. Interesting. Okay, so you can pick the name, whatever you want to name this. Let's say Gen 2, and obviously you can only set it up for that right now. Not sure why. So as you can see, this is a spark symbol. So let's click on that, and as you can see, you have run profiles. And I explained you when we started this lecture, there are 4 types of run profiles available for remote engine Gen 2. Remember, this might be a certification question, so you need to, which is the standard, and then you have advanced, big data and Databricks, and only standard is being showed, maybe because of the trial version, I'm not sure. But you can, let's see, yeah, it's not showing up. You have total 4 types, remember that. Okay, so standard, advanced, big data and Databricks. Okay, that's about the run profile for Gen 2. And for this run profiles, you can add them again. So for this, we already seen there are like 3 types: job, and I think microservice, and then OSGI. But since we didn't check those when we created that, it's only showing that. But if you, when you created this, if you selected these 2, then you will get different options right there. So for now, just click on add profile, and then you can mention different parameters for this profile. So what this means is, even though you have a single remote engine, you can create profiles on top of it and use specific profiles to run specific jobs. Okay, so that's the point of whole profiles and whatnot. I'm not going to create any, but you can check the documentation on understanding what the run profiles is. And again, if you created a run profile for this engine, only this engine can use it. If you want the same settings of a profile, you might have to recreate it for another engine. Remember that. So now we have that. Let's see how to allocate these engines to environment. So when we created this, we defaultly got to assign it to the workspace and environment, but let's assume that that's not the case, and we created the engine and we want to assign these to different environments. So allocate cloud engines to environments proportionally to the number of concurrent task executions you plan to run. 3 different tasks can be run in parallel on a cloud engine. And before doing this, our assumption is we already have environments created. Allocated cloud engines consume engine tokens even if they are not running executions. So remember that. So how do we do that? We go to the environments page. Currently we have 4. If you don't like this view, you can select this. And then we click on that particular environment. And then on the info page, you go to the info page. And if you want to assign any cloud engines, you select the number here. If you want to allocate 1, then you select the 1. And then click on save. Then that many number of cloud engines will be allocated to this environment, which I don't want to do. That's all there is to allocating cloud engine to your environments. You can select any environment, info, then give a number of the cloud engines. Okay, now let's see how to allocate remote engines and clusters to environments. So cluster we didn't see, but if you go to engines, if you have more than 1, you can create engine cluster. And then let's say dev, and then name it my cluster. Save it, and you click on the cluster and you add all your engines you want to be part of this cluster. Remember, once you add these remote engines to the cluster, you won't be able to run from your studio on those remote engines. So remember that. Okay, so that's about the cluster. So now go to environments and then click the remote engine and then edit it, and then you get to select which environment you want to allocate that remote engine to. And remember, remote engines and remote engine clusters belong to a single environment. You cannot use the same remote engine to run in different environments. As you progress in your workflow, you need to allocate them to the environment on which you want to run local executions. So only one environment can have a particular remote engine assigned to it. So the only way you can do that is come to the remote engine, click on the edit, and then change the environment. So if I click QA, then it will disappear from dev and it will go into QA. So that's all there is to remote engines. In this video you have learned a lot. You have learned what are the different types of engines that are available on Talend Cloud, and then you have seen how to install Talend remote engine on a Linux Ubuntu machine, and then you have seen how to configure it with Talend Cloud, and then we have seen how to configure it with our Talend Studio, and then you have also learned what are run profiles. Again, go through the run profiles in the documentation because it's probable certification questions. And then we successfully ran a job on the remote server to make sure the setup was correct. If you ever want to change the setup of remote engine or remote job server on Studio, you click on preferences, then you come to Talend, and then I think is it in run debug and remote. As you can see, it copied all those from here. If ever anything changes, you can come here and change that accordingly, but anyways, it's not letting you do any of this from here. It's not. The reason being this is a trial version of it, that's why it's not letting you do any of this, but in a paid version you should be able to get all those. So that's that, guys. So that's all there is for me to show you on the concept of remote engines. I hope now you have a better understanding of what types of remote engines that are available on cloud, and you know what a cloud engine is. Cloud engine for design is remote engine gen 2, and how to set it up. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and see you in the next lecture. Peace out.